Welcome to the Life Coach Lounge. I'm Angela.
I'm Lisa.
And I'm Emily.
This isn't a podcast for coaches. It's for you, for real people navigating real life. It's lighthearted, it's deep, and it's grounded in faith, friendship, and purpose.
And once a month, you can join us in our virtual Life Coach Lounge on Zoom.
So pull up a seat. The Life Coach Lounge is open.
Hello, and may the force be with you. No, today is not May the 4th. Today we are talking about quotable quotes. There may be some that you know by heart, some you've never heard before, and some that you might think about a little differently after this episode. Thank you for spending some time with us today in the lounge. We appreciate all our friends who join us in the Life Coach Lounge. Don't forget to join our private Facebook group and schedule your free one-on-one coaching session with your favorite coach. We love when you send us referrals, and we are grateful when you do. So let's get started. As coaches, we know that one conversation, one Bible verse, or even one sentence can shift your thinking in a way that has the potential to change the trajectory of your life. This is why it's important to take a pause when that revelation comes. Let it sink in. Have you girls ever heard of a Commonplace book?
Not until you mentioned it in the Marcos.
Yeah, same.
I had not heard of it.
So I had never heard of it either. I learned about this from my YouTube friend, Jennifer L. Scott. She says a Commonplace book is a way to compile knowledge, usually by writing information into books. Commonplace books have been kept for centuries. This is not a new journaling concept. It is an ancient one. A commonplace book differs from a traditional diary or journal that is typically chronological. In a traditional journal, you write about your day, your thoughts, your feelings, etc. But a commonplace book is where you compile valuable information that you receive throughout the day through books, what you're watching, or what you're listening to. Personally, I have been doing this for years, but I had no idea that this was what it's called. I do keep a small book in my purse for taking notes, but usually I use the Notes app on my phone. I have a note entitled Walking Notes. Does that surprise you at all? Probably not. When I'm out for my walk, I'm usually listening to a podcast. And whenever something really stands out to me, I stop and record it in my walking notes. This could be a Bible verse, one line from a sermon, or something I want to remember from a fellow coach. I like to call these quotable quotes. Do either of you keep a commonplace book or notes in your phone or a diary of this sort? Lisa, I know you like to, what do you call it? Word vomit?
I do like to word vomit into my phone.
Your phone.
Yes. So I too use the Notes app, and I have so many notes in there that I used to keep them all organized by theme, but it's it is literally out of control. So if I'm like, oh, right, I talked about that, and I know kind of like what the words were that I was talking about, then I just go and search for it because I know I didn't put it in a folder. I cleaned this out recently, so now I currently only have 708. But yes, when I say I talk into my phone on the regular, yes, I do. I keep a running tab of all my thoughts in my phone.
Is it talk to text or is it audio?
It is when you hit the little microphone, and then I just start blabbing away.
So it actually types it out in there.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How many podcast topics are hiding in your notes app?
Probably quite a few.
I'm sure.
Probably quite a few. I mean, you said you have a notebook in your handbag. I used to years ago do something very similar, just like a blank book that had no lines or anything on it that I could jot things down in. But yeah, this is the one of the many things about technology that I actually do love is my notes app.
I love that you use your notes app. And since I've heard you talk about writing things in your notes app, I have started to use mine more frequently, but not necessarily for a commonplace book, more for thoughts on the go, because that's the convenience of it, right? Or like Angela, when you're walking, that's a convenience factor. You just stop and it's right there. However, I am a paper and pencil gal. And so I actually do have, I didn't know it was called a commonplace book, but I do have a notebook that I started writing in probably 11 years ago because I can remember the period of time in my life where it just was very helpful to me to have scriptures. So most of what's written in there, especially in the beginning, is different Bible verses and scriptures that were very comforting to me at a time that was really difficult. And then as I continued to add to it, it would be quotes from a book or a paragraph from a book that I didn't want to forget. And so it was fun when you were telling us about the topic for today to go back and read through that and realize I actually do have a commonplace book. And now I want to go find a really pretty journal that can be my actual commonplace book. What a gift to be able to hand that on to your children someday in your own handwriting.
I love that so much. So, okay, now that we have this collection of quotes, now what do we do with it, right? So, I came up with some ways of how to use our quotable quotes. Number one, you can use them as journaling prompts. So, to our listeners, you are welcome to take any of the quotes that you hear today on this episode and use them as journaling prompts. Here are a few you might recognize to get you started. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Franklin D. Roosevelt. Emily, how do you think this quote would inspire a journaling session?
The way I would start with this quote in a journaling session is to define fear, either in my own words and maybe also look it up in a dictionary definition. Really come to terms with what is fear? How is fear showing up in my life? How much airtime am I giving it in my life? And then really taking a look at what he's saying. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. So if we can get over the fear, it gives way to possibilities. So that's where I would start with it for a journaling session. That's a great
Love
quote
it.
to journal about.
Yeah, it is. And you have to say the pause. The only thing we have to fear. It should be written in, I think. If you've ever heard him say that, that's how he says it. Anyways, okay. Squirrel. Okay, how about this one? I have a dream. Martin Luther King Jr. Okay. I think this is probably one of the best journaling quotes because if you just, you don't even have to have a technical journal. You can just take a blank piece of paper and start, I have a dream, and just start to write what comes out of your pen. I actually did this one time, you guys. I wrote down kind of a vision of my dream, not dream life, but like dream, like what I was dreaming of for my next season of life. And I wrote it in so much like minute detail. And one time Jim and I were talking about it because I was trying to, inspire him to dream a little about I forget what we were talking about, like retirement or something. And I said, "Well, I did this once." And I took out my journal and I read it to him and he cried. Like it really touched him. And so it's powerful to dream in that way and write it down. the Bible says to write down your vision. So do that. It'll really be very revealing. Okay, how about this one? The unexamined life is not worth living. Socrates said this. Lisa, where would you even begin with a quote like this that you could probably journal on for a whole month?
Yes, I think you could journal on it for a whole month. So this quote actually took me right back to college when I read this as one of the quotes that you were going to talk about today. And I was just taken right back to philosophy. And so I think what's interesting here is Socrates, my interpretation of this is Socrates isn't saying your life is worthless if you don't examine it. What he's saying is you're basically just happening to your life instead of living it if you don't examine it. And so if you were to take that to a journaling prompt to just kind of look at it that way instead of just, oh, my life is worthless and I didn't examine it, therefore I amount to nothing. But that's not what he's saying. So to just kind of be more curious. I mean, it's Socrates, for goodness sakes. Like, it's going to be written in a very philosophical way, and you have to break it down a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it's basically saying have awareness, which is the beginning of change always, right?
Mhm.
Just having that awareness. So, yes, that one could get a little deep, I think. So, if you are not a regular journaler or never tried journaling, maybe start with one of those, and that might get you on the journaling journey. So, how else can we use quotable quotes? Or why do we save them? Recording quotes or memorable notes helps us to recall them. So you might hear something that really lands for you, but if you don't record it, you won't remember it. I mean, I won't. I'll just speak for me. I won't remember it. And here's the thing, you guys, the quotes you save reveal your values and your internal conflicts. They are important to remember. Hearing something impactful is great, but when you hear it, write it, and then see what you wrote, it becomes part of your memory so much faster. And if you're like me, you can use all the help you can get to trying to remember things. The act of writing and or recording quotes helps to solidify them in your memory. You can put them on your lock screen on your phone or the wallpaper on your computer or an old school post-it note on the bathroom mirror to look at every day to try to remember. You can add them into your daily routines. So you could have a morning quote with coffee, like a gratitude quote, a quote before bed for rest and reflection, a quote before workouts, kind of like a hype song, only a quote, or before a difficult meeting to build your courage. Quotable quotes helps you when you record them and learn them. It also helps you learn more about the person who said them. Famous quotes are great history lessons. You can even do a deep dive into the person and the circumstances surrounding why they said it. Think about the Psalms. In your Bible, like right at the beginning of the Psalm, when it says, oh, this is the time David was being chased by Saul, it kind of puts it in a new perspective, right? So when you learn a quote, like, Franklin D. Roosevelt, when he was saying the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, study why, what were the circumstances surrounding that, and it will put it into a new perspective for you. And then when you get a larger collection, kind of like Lisa was saying, you can create themed folders for yourself so that when you need courage or when you're having grief, when you need to build your self discipline or look up something on forgiveness or burnout or patience, you have these all stored in labeled folders. And then when you're struggling with something specific, you have a ready made emotional toolkit instead of scrolling endlessly trying to find an answer. These also make great conversation starters. Can you you guys imagine like being around the table with your adult kids and being like, so what do you guys think of this quote by Socrates? Like, that would be so fun to just pull something out and talk about at the Thanksgiving table or whatever. I just think they're all great conversation starters. So I asked the girls to tell me some of their favorite quotes and why these are resonating for them in their season of life right now. Lisa, share with us what some of your favorite quotes.
Okay, so I have said this one. I know I've said this several times in the Marcos. And I actually looked up on my Facebook page going back, I think, to 2021. And the quote is, "Be where your feet are." And the reason I looked it up is because my son recently texted me in the last couple of weeks that quote. He's like, "Mom, great quote. Be where your feet are. Isn't that great?" And I'm like, do I feel
It's
invisible
my
right
quote.
now?
What are you talking about?
Well, apparently it's in a Noah Khan song. So it resonated for him, right? Well, we know as parents, we don't care how the light bulb goes on. Sometimes the light bulb just goes on, right? Um, so I was just curious with myself. I'm like, I have been saying this for a long time. So thank you, Facebook, for helping me out going back in my posts from 5 years ago when I said that. But that quote is an ancient proverb. Noah Khan cannot claim it as his own, but I'm sure the song is amazing. But what resonates the most for me is in my last couple years of practicing my daily gratitude, the reminder of that quote to literally just be where my feet are is the most simplistic way to have gratitude. Like it does, where even if you're doing the dishes, I am where my feet are. I am in this moment right now. In the shower, I am in this moment right now. Like the smell of the new shampoo I just bought, the warm water. Like you are present and accounted for in that moment. So that is my first shareable, quotable quote for me. Emily, what is one of your favorite quotes?
So, C.S. Lewis is one of my favorite authors. And this year, 2026, a friend and I are reading through a book a month of C.S. Lewis. So, what is it, May? So, we're on our fifth book. But I've always liked this quote by him. He says, "Humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less." And as someone who self admits that she has struggled with pride for much of her life, and God is still chipping away at the pride that is in me, that really resonates. It's not thinking that I'm less, it's just thinking of myself less often. So C.S. Lewis has a lot of wisdom. And when I get that journal to become my new Commonplace book, I have so many pages flagged in the books that we already read this year that I might just need to have a C.S. Lewis Commonplace book now that I think of it.
I love that.
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
make perfect sense. He has a lot of amazing mic drops for sure. And to me, much like Socrates, like he'll say things, and I personally have to be like, hold up, what does he mean by that? Let
It
me read
makes you
that.
think.
Yeah, let me read
Yes,
that one more time or 5 more times.
exactly. How about you, Angela?
Yeah. So one I came up with is by Dale Carnegie, the OG relationship. Uh, what is this book? How to Win Friends and Influence People. The most interesting people are the most interested people. And this is something I'm working on, you guys. I am one of those people who developed a habit of while someone's talking, I'm formulating my reply. And it's a bad habit. It's just a bad habit. And I have been trying to break out of that. I want to be more interested in what they're saying. Ask questions. Coaching has helped with this a lot. Really listening to what they're saying instead of, forming my opinions and defenses and comebacks and even funny whatever after whatever they're saying. Like, no, just listen and be interested in what they're saying and ask questions that show that you care and you are interested. So I guess that makes me more interesting. I'm working on my I'm working on getting more interesting. I don't know. According to Dale Carnegie anyways. Okay. Lisa, you have another one?
I do. My next quote is you're braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think, which is spoken by Christopher Robin to Winnie the Pooh.
How could you not love it already?
I know. And I think the quote really speaks for itself as to why this resonates for me. It's also one of my daughter's favorite quotes as well. I think this was her quote in her senior, like the seniors have a senior quote in their yearbook. I believe this was her quote as well. And it just allows you to recognize that if you let everything else, the judgment of all others and the fear of that judgment, even of yourself, that you are actually braver and stronger and smarter than you give yourself credit for on any given day.
Yeah. The self-talk.
I love that.
Yay. Love Winnie the Pooh. Now you made me want to watch it.
Emily, what do you have next?
So the next one I came up with was by Winston Churchill, and it is attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference. And during our homeschool days, we had this as a magnet on the refrigerator because even mom needed the reminder that you can always choose your attitude and it can completely turn the day around if you're stuck in a rut or something has not gone well. We did a whole podcast episode on attitude, actually, that we will link to if you have not listened to that one yet.
That's a good one. So, how about this one by Queen Elizabeth? A life lived in service is not a sacrifice, but an honor. And such a good reminder as moms, especially on those holidays where you just feel like, why am I doing this? Why am I putting so much work into this? All the things, right? The cooking and cleaning and shopping and I don't know, holiday decorating and all the things. It's like, no, I get to do this. This is an honor. I'm serving my family. And it's such a good reminder. And she served for a long, long time and still said that. So thank you, Queen Elizabeth.
My last quote that I brought to the podcast today is also a proverb. And well, I want to give full credit to my grandfather. I learned in looking this up that it actually was popularized by Benjamin Franklin. And the quote is, "You catch more flies with honey than with vinegar," meaning a gentle persuasion of and kindness and flattery are going to be far more effective in getting what you want than being rude, aggressive, and disrespectful. So thanks, Benny, but also thanks, Papa, because that's what I remember him saying when I was little. If clearly I must have said something, and he'd say, like, Lisa, catch more flies with honey. Okay.
That's so sweet. So the last one that I brought today is by Martin Luther King Jr. And he says, faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase. And if that is not true of the Christian walk, I don't know what is, because rarely does God actually show us all of the staircase. He just says, here's the next step. Take it in faith and obedience, and I'll show you the next step when the time is right. So that has been very inspirational for me.
Such a good one. So, my last one is Never Be Afraid to Trust an Unknown Future to a Known God by Corey Ten Boom. You girls know I love my Holocaust survivor stories, and she was the one that inspired my entire book collection and my love of them. She was the first one I ever read, and my word of the year this year is trust. And so I just keep, every time that I see that word, it pops out at me. It just stands out. And you girls know I'm keeping a little commonplace book every time I come across the word trust. So yeah, never be afraid to trust an unknown future to a known God. Very similar to the one you just said by Martin Luther King Jr.
Corey Ten Boom has another good one that I noticed when I was looking through my notebook in preparation for today. And it is prayer your spare tire or your steering wheel? Something to that effect. So she has a lot of wisdom. Corey Ten Boom has a lot of wisdom.
She does. Yeah. Okay, everyone. I hope today's episode helped us to use memorable quotes to renew our minds. Hopefully, you will be inspired to keep a commonplace book of your own. Let us know some of your favorite quotes. You can send us a DM on Instagram or send us a message on Facebook. Join the private Facebook group, and we'll start sharing in there all of our favorites. This was a really great talk today, girls. I'm grateful that you took the time to write out your favorite quotes and share that with us. And I'm sure we'll have more to talk about later in the Marcos. See you there.